Hey everyone, welcome to this podcast at a very special series which I'm starting today is about a lot of technology and AI hype we have all heard all across. But is it really what we are doing on ground? What do practitioners think about the practically what's happening in various domains? And to begin with, for today's podcast, I have a very special guest and let me introduce her. I had pleasure of working with this person in my career, a person whom I have reported to. So about her, what I can say is very simple looking person, but she has very keen, detailed eye on what matters at that moment in time. She has 25 years of experience in embedded domains, specifically into automotive and various broad spectrum of roles which she has played in engineering teams. More about her from her, let's understand. Hi, Meenu. Welcome to our podcast today. And I'm so glad you made it and we are making it in person. So, warm welcome again. Would you be able to tell us, introduce us about your broad experience and challenges to do it in 60 to 120 seconds?
Thank you, Shweta, and thank you for having me here. Um, yes, we did work together long time back. This was, few years, uh, initial years of my career as well. So I am Meenu, and I am currently heading the Japan and Korea business. I work with a company called as Omovio. We just got spun off from Continental, and I head the brakes division, and I am the software and systems head. So, talking about my brief experience, I have I have my formal education as an electrical engineer. Least did I know that from electrical engineering I will move to software, and that too in embedded. So initially, my career started with mix and match of domains in consumer electronics, railway, and then medical electronics. And then it became more focused when I joined Bosch in the powertrain area. And there I was leading the functional safety as well as Japan business in my later part of the career. And yes, now I am here in Omovio. And yes, back to the world. I have seen in last 2 decades huge change from mainframe systems to embedded and now to software defined and AI driven. And I think this transformation is going to continue for at least rest of my working life.
Wow. I remember, Meenu, we worked on embedded systems when 10 years initial of my career I have spent in all like 10 years in embedded and working with you as well. Clearly, I remember that we were working for an Australian client where we said, will autonomous vehicle be a reality? That was a far-fetched vision at that point in time. And we were working specifically for making the tractors in those big, large fields of Australia a possibility. So we were working on various things involved with the nitty-gritties of how do we gauge the vehicle and how do we make it work, etc. But it's now reality, whether in some geographies more prevalent than the others, but autonomous vehicles we have cracked. What's next? What is happening on the field? Because I'm out of touch, but knowing it from you would be amazing.
Yeah, clearly autonomous mobility is a game changer, but definitely it is not the end game.
Mhm.
So let's talk about different, fields that we are now working on. We all know about the software-driven vehicles, STV. AI is the intelligence which is sitting on top of STV. So largely, if you see today, a vehicle is a smartphone on wheels, and manufacturers are giving capabilities which are enhancing from time to time. So it is not that you just buy a vehicle once and that's it. Users want enhanced features from time to time. And this is where over the air updates, connectivity features, in cabin experience, these are becoming the norm.
Mhm.
Uh, from software defined vehicles, we are also working on now AI defined vehicles, so which means the software is definitely the backbone, but what we are looking at is the user experience. What we are looking at is a virtual guy whom you cannot see inside, but he knows your preferences, and He knows what the occupants need,
Mhm.
and that is on the experience side. But you also look at the other side, which is the predictive
Mm.
maintenance of the vehicle, or the advanced diagnostics.
Mm.
So these are these are the
Upcoming things.
things which are currently on,
Mm.
and there is no end to it. We all say, okay, electric vehicles are everywhere now, but have you ever thought about fast charging? You charge your smartphone in 10 minutes. So we also are working on those aspects, faster charging. What about the second life of these batteries?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is,
sustainability
yeah,
of, yeah,
sustainability. This also needs to be worked upon.
of course.
Along with that, of course, the lower battery cost is a challenge today.
Mm. Mm.
Then we have this connectivity or connected vehicle ecosystem, wherein one
Mm.
vehicle should be able to talk to other vehicle should be able to talk to infrastructure.
Mm. Mm.
And why we need it, it's not just a fancy feature. We need it because this will help in energy management. This is going to help in traffic management, especially in
Mm.
a city like Bangalore. Let's just imagine few years down the line, fleet management. So these are the finer aspects. So it is not about the proof of concept. We see robo taxis on the road,
Mm.
and that's it. No, there are other aspects that are being worked upon today. The next gen, they wouldn't want to own a vehicle.
Mm.
So manufacturers have to give subscription based model. You want to use the vehicle, so the shift is going to happen from the sales model to the subscription model.
Mm.
That is also going to be a game changer.
Mm.
So
I love that. I love that. That's the difference of, talking to a AI user and AI system thinker, because I can hear that all the sets of concerns, we don't want to solve it like in pilots or demos. We want to solve it on the ground.
yeah,
And I catch for me is the software defined vehicle to AI defined vehicle. We'll come back to that, but I want to first thrash out, because when we were working and beyond that also, there is difference in the way automotive market is really operating regionally
of course.
across the world.
Yeah.
Give us a glimpse of that.
Yeah, so I have seen mostly two markets closely. Of course, I've also worked in US, but not in this on the medical side. But I can clearly tell you the difference between how European market thinks and how Asia thinks. So if we look at Europe, what is their main objective? There is a carbon dioxide emissions, which is a
Mm.
main concern. Then safety and safety and quality, and the automotive spice functional safety,
Mm.
basically.
Mm.
That is a major concern.
Mm.
So if you see all the leading manufacturers, Volkswagen, Mercedes Benz, Daimler, Volvo, they have all shifted to pure electric vehicles.
Mm.
And also the infrastructure of these countries, it allows them to for faster charging and seamless movement of the vehicles. Whereas if you see on Asia side, there is a broad spectrum.
Mm.
Let's analyze country by country. What is the focus of Japan? Japan focuses on fuel efficiency and safety.
Mhm.
In India, we are struggling with affordability and mass market.
Mm.
If you look at South Korea, they are after the advanced technology.
Mhm.
And if you look at China, they are completely different from rest of the world.
So before you proceed, how does it put OEMs into the problem?
Yes,
Because you have to solve the problem,
right.
but regionally it is so varied.
Exactly.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So I was coming to that. So for example, Toyota.
Hmm.
Toyota has heavily invested on their hybrids, because Toyota is meant for Japan, and this is where they are solving the problem of that country.
Hmm.
So Toyota is highly invested on electric on hybrids.
Hmm.
Whereas if you look at Hyundai and Kia, which were nowhere there few years back,
Hmm.
now they've got so advanced on the electrification.
Hmm.
Whereas in India, we are still working on the internal combustion engine, a bit of electric vehicles, depending on uh, because in India we have all sectors of people, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you need mobility solutions for all of them.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And in China, the manufacturers are focusing on fancy features. You need a good flashy displays, you need an AI assistant, you need a good in-cabin experience, because people don't use cars there like how we do. That's not an asset, that is just like a consumer electronics item which probably they would drive for 2 to 3 years and then move on to the next one. So manufacturers have to look at what is the regional demand, and based on which the portfolio needs to be decided, which is definitely not an easy exercise.
So let's take an example. You pick up Toyota. Now, if Toyota has to satisfy your European market, Asian market, and your American market, US world, give us one example if you can.
So Toyota has come up with something called as they are selling it like a platform, which is a Toyota hybrid system.
Okay.
And this Toyota hybrid system can actually meet the demands of all these markets. So every customer or every manufacturer doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. They can collaborate, do joint venture with Toyota, and use their platform to solve the market. So if in India, you have to have a hybrid car, again, there is a joint venture. So this is how, the world problem is getting solved.
Yeah, just for the listeners, hybrid in India or Asia side, because we still are lacking the charging and other infrastructure
Yes.
which is required to make a fully electrical vehicle possible. And whereas in other markets where it is infrastructure is there, you can have it, but in Japanese and Korean market, it's beyond it because they want more features, more upcoming features to be tested. Wonderful. That's a wonderful example. It's a right segue to now move to another section, which I know is your forte. We have spoken about the regions and how the regions are across the world differ when it comes to embedded and automotive domains. Now let's talk about engineering roles and engineering management role. I know you are heading engineering department. You have been into various hats which you are wearing. Tell me where this role has its more challenges and where it gets complex, and even with the opportunities. So tell us about day-to-day problems of this role and opportunities and challenges both.
Okay. So Shweta, here I would largely cover on the broad side of this role. That does not mean I am on either side of the extreme, but let me just cover and then come down to probably what is my leadership
Take on
style.
that, yeah.
Okay. So I have seen two wide extremes in this role. On one side, I have seen people who are, I would say, the super engineer leader. They would want to make every technical decision.
Okay.
They would want to review every design.
Micromanagement.
Yes, micromanagement. It's a little old fashioned word nowadays. So they would want to take a technical decision. They would want to solve
Get
every
involved.
problem. Probably they would want to show that I am the smartest person in the room.
Yep.
It is good because you get a very technically sound decision. Okay, but the consequence is that it may take longer because you become the bottleneck, and you as a leader have other responsibilities as well. So which means, the turn comes when it comes.
And people pull themselves back.
Correct.
That's another
And
disadvantage.
then the ownership starts reducing, the accountability starts reducing, and one fine day you realize you have not built the talent pipeline. Whereas there is an other extreme of this spectrum wherein this is a pure manager leader who would focus on the status reports, weekly meetings, budgets, the managerial, but far away from the technical credibility, because he or she has never invested on that. So the consequence of that is, of course, the team gets empowered because they know they have to take all the decisions, but you start losing respect from the people. Okay. um, then where is actually the opportunity? You said, where is the opportunity of this role? So this role of engineering head, or head of department, he or she sits at a very fine intersection of both this, because uh, this is where, a leader has to take a call of how much I will go inside and how much I will let others take the ownership. And so my leadership style, if you ask me, I would say I have a rule here. I have a rough rule. So my rough rule says 40% of your time should be spent towards coaching and building the talent pipeline.
I
uh,
love it.
yeah. And 30% of your time should go in strategy, which means what investment needs to be done, what is the technology roadmap, what's happening in the industry.
Hmm.
20% of your time has to go in, I am sure you have not expected it, stakeholder alignment,
Hmm.
wherein you are ensuring that what your stakeholders need and
Yeah.
whether they are getting that or not.
Yeah.
um, and 10% of your time should go towards the technical reviews. So you should intervene only when there is a problem which needs your final approval, which means you need to understand the
Hmm.
risks behind it. And also, at least in my role, I get this opportunity to also release the software for production and going into the field.
Hmm.
But that's just 10%.
Okay.
So maintaining that fine balance
Hmm.
is an art, I would say, and I'm sure it's not easy because
Hmm.
numbers are, percentages are said, but it's not. You are very much tempted to jump into the problem because the engineer inside you keeps coming
Keeps
out.
coming
So
out.
you want to identify the problem, you want to suggest the solution. Rather, you have to hold back and you have to say, okay, you have to ask the right questions
Hmm.
so that people are able to figure out. You
Hmm.
have to challenge the assumptions and bring them to the solution, and tomorrow you give your next you, set of talent to the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this rule. 4321, I would call it.
Okay. Yeah.
So 40%, 30%, 20 and 10. That's a wonderful way to say it. But my experience is similar. So there are engineering leaders I've seen that they are either own too much or own too less. I think what you're trying to say is have a balance.
Yeah, that
There,
balance is important,
yeah,
and I think each one of us struggle
right.
because at times, yeah, that 10% should become 20%, that 40% may have to move to 50%. So largely you should know when to step
When
back,
to step
is
back,
is
because
what.
coaching is a very important part of this role, particularly, which maybe
Exactly.
other roles like program management, architects, etc., don't do it.
And
So
you don't
we
have to
hear
prove
you.
that you are
Technically
you
sound.
are the most technically sound. The reason that you are there means you have already lived through that.
Correct.
And
Correct.
now it's someone else's time to shine.
Yeah. Yeah. Uplift others to get uplifted
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Yeah. Love that. I've seen in my roles as well, when we deal with various geographical clients, let's pick up in this example Japanese and Korean customers. How do you create that psychological safety? Because sometimes we are too slow, sometimes we want to rush through. Quality and safety gets compromised, and engineers want to really tell us that please listen to us. But there is a psychological safety which comes. So, any story, any example coming to your mind which you can throw
Yeah, I mean, we live it every day
every day?
because I work for Japan and Korea. So what matters most is safety, quality,
Hmm.
and trust. So, trust once lost, it cannot be recovered. So, there are often those, extremes, or there is often a push and pull of
Hmm.
what can be compromised and what cannot be compromised.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so, when it comes to, safety compliance topics like safety, compliance, quality, this is completely non negotiable,
Hmm.
at least with Japanese OEMs, and I would say most of the OEMs.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
is completely non negotiable, at least on the Asia side, I can say. Um, what can be compromised then? There
Hmm.
has to be something else which has to, because you cannot give attention to all the parameters.
Right.
So maybe you can compromise on scope, you can compromise on the performance.
Hmm.
Okay.
Give us an example.
So very simple. I think this happens to us day to day. Let's say a customer has asked you to uh, to bring a change at the last moment. It's a very simple change.
Hmm.
Experts in the room know this
Looks
is not
simple. Yeah.
this is not going to impact. So you make that little code change and it is working fine. You have done the impact analysis and you just say that it is working fine.
Hmm.
This will not work. This will not work.
Hmm.
So the same statement, it has to be validated by means of at least 500 test cases which you have executed, and you have seen things are not failing, and
Hmm.
they are working. There is no side impact of that change, and and most important is you need to produce an evidence, because
Hmm.
evidence builds trust.
Hmm.
Trust cannot be built without evidence.
Hmm.
Or let's say the other, other example that we have, there is a failure which is happening. You have observed a failure in your lab environment,
Hmm.
and you're not able to reproduce it. The
Okay.
failure rate is very, very low. None
Hmm.
of the manufacturers have ever reported it. It is a legacy code which is working, but you have seen the failure once. So what do you do in such case?
Hmm.
Do you close your eyes?
Hmm.
So in this case, no. So one, you need to reproduce it. You need to do everything to reproduce it. And then if it is affecting a customer timeline, you have to open up to the
Hmm.
customer that we have seen it once. This is my risk judgment,
Hmm.
and I see that it will only occur in these conditions, and these are very rare conditions, so the failure rate is really low.
Hmm.
And if I need to fix it, I need to postpone my release by another 2 weeks,
Hmm.
or I can give you an engineering drop today, so that your event which is dependent on that does not suffer.
Suffer.
And in the meanwhile, I do a thorough investigation and come back to you with a result.
Hmm.
So this is the psychological safety that you have to also build in your people, so that they don't fear an escalation.
Hmm. They get that courage to speak up when they
Yes,
need to speak up.
yes. So they have to tell what is working, what is not working, and this psychological safety you need to give to your people.
Hmm. The other example which comes to your mind where program required you to compromise between safety, cost, performance, delivery. I know you've kind of touched upon that, but anything you want to highlight on?
I think there is no question of compromising on it. That is totally out of
But it
question.
happens.
But it happens in the sense that, yeah, we have had a situation. See, we in India are not facing all the customers, especially Japanese customers, directly. So there have had been cases wherein we have to go back to our Japanese stakeholders and have to tell them, this is the situation. Can you negotiate for more time
Hmm.
with the customer? And
Hmm.
can we get that sort of cushion? And working with Japanese customers, they just don't take things on the face value. They would also want to know the detail. Okay, what is not working and how does it look in the
Because they
design?
understand,
They
yeah.
understand. They are deep within the subject. So it's not just in what conditions it is working. Okay, what part of design is a problem? They
Hmm.
would want to understand the technical root cause.
Hmm.
So often, since you asked for an example, often when such a problem comes, we also end up doing a very deep 3
Analysis.
cross 5 y, and figuring out what, apart from the corrective action, what would prevent in future. And then there is also follow up on whether those preventive actions are in place. Have you forgotten what you had defined few years back, and if the problem is coming back again? So we deal with this all the time.